Greg is an interesting character. One would read his resume and it reads like a success story, except you're only looking at the mountain peaks. You're not looking at the valleys.
What was my childhood like? As a kid, I never really fitted into the school system. I had a vivid imagination, but at the same time, it didn't really fit with what the basic school structure was. You know, the teachers didn't like me. My kindergarten teacher said to my parents that I would be the reason she quit the profession. And the trouble with her is that she was what I now call a paycheck teacher. She was someone who was just doing the bare essentials to get from Monday to Friday so she could go home and forget about us for the weekend. And as a kid, you need to have your mind captivated, your heart captivated, so you can go somewhere new, somewhere better, and be inspired. And I found that was lacking in most of my teachers. You know, I was a skinny kid, and it was putting me behind in my sporting endeavours, and you know, I was getting bullied slightly because of different things, and so I decided to change. You know, so I engaged training into a gymnasium with a friend of mine, and I found a magazine, and I found a photograph of a man called Bob Paris. Now, Bob's physique was astronomical, incredibly symmetrical. It was almost like it was a Greek statue. Bob had just won the US national heavyweight and overall bodybuilding titles. And I was taken back by that, and I got so inspired, I jumped up with the magazine in my hand and said to my friend's parents, "That's going to be me, I'm going to win the Australian Heavyweight Bodybuilding Championships." The room fell silent. I'll never forget it, and then they erupted in laughter. His mother told me it was the most stupid idea she'd ever heard. Now, I'd faced negativity all through my schooling life, and to get that said to me again, well, that was pretty rough. And I remember storming out of their place and not going back. And I went to the gym and I sat down and I just decided that right then and there that I was going to become the national champion of Australia. And so I immersed myself in my sport, and everything else took a second base to that. You know, I worked hard. You know, I didn't place for the first show, but eventually I got better and I kept working at it, and then, you know, I started getting fifths and fourths, and I was very hungry, very thirsty to do this and to learn. And so I decided to teach myself. You know, it probably took me longer, but at the same time it taught me the hard road that I would need to take in many other things in life. And I was in the best shape of my life. 1 week out from the competition, I was under the leg press pushing out a very heavy weight, and my right knee collapsed under the weight, and it was a crunching sound I'll never forget. And I just rolled off the leg press onto the floor, and I just felt my world coming down around me. And when they took me to the doctors and to the medical guys, the sports doctors, a good friend of mine, Radley, was a sports doctor, and he looked at me and said, "Mate, I'm sorry, but it's over for this year." And I just couldn't take that as an answer. And I decided at the time that I had to do whatever it took to get on stage that weekend because I wanted to win. And this was my shot. And I knew if I didn't do it now, I probably wouldn't do it. And I just grabbed him, I pulled him in close, and I said, "Radley, anything that you can do to get me on stage, I'll do it, whatever it takes." So he said, "Well, it's not common practice, but we'll do this." And so he slid a 19 gauge needle under my kneecap, and we drained out 2.5 cups of fluid, iced it and strapped it, and I went back to the gym. It was excruciating, but we did that every single day leading up to competition day, where I managed to get out on stage and win the national championships. You know, it was a dream come true for me. So many years of people telling me I'd be nothing. You know, my school teachers told me that I would be nothing, that I had no future, was probably going to be a vagrant. And to hear all of that over so many years, and then suddenly to be able to win something like a national championship was astounding to me. So I was blown away. The next day I went back to my friend's place. I hadn't been there for years, and I knocked on the door. His mother answered, and I just handed her the trophy. smiled and walked away. But what it did do, it set in stone what I could do if I put my mind to it. There was nothing that was out of my grasp. And I started reapplying my knowledge to other things. So, you know, I decided from bodybuilding when I retired that I wanted to get into movies. And I'd been a martial artist my whole life. I started doing martial arts as a very young kid. And so I decided, well, if I'm going to get into movies, then I better go start. You know, my friends told me I was stupid, that no one would look at me because my only qualification now was a carpenter. But I thought, you know what, if I could do it with bodybuilding, I can do it with this. So I stuck it out, and they were right. Door after door got slammed in my face. But you know, instead of thinking that I couldn't make it, I thought, well, how else do I make it? And how else do I get through? How else do I make the mark I want to make? So because of my martial arts background, I decided to go via the Hong Kong route. And I thought, well, if I do that, at least I've got a shot. So I went for it. But I figured very quickly they wouldn't read unsolicited mail. So I set up a film company. It was funny at the time though, because I didn't know, when I started calling the film companies, I didn't have the money to fly to Hong Kong. I didn't have a clue how I'd get there. But at the same time, I knew that I would. When I got in contact with them after I'd sent them all my stuff, and I said, look, you know, this guy will be coming over, we're representing him. I didn't say it was me. We're representing this guy, he's coming to Hong Kong, he's a great martial artist, very physical. He's coming over there to meet and greet everybody, you know, would you be willing to see him? And everybody said yes, including Jackie Chan's people. And it went from there, and I just started getting interview after interview, and things started going quite well. I started studying Mandarin at college at nights, and I went to Hong Kong, you know, in May of that year, and, you know, started trying to get through into the film industry. But that was the start point, and then some of that eventually started to fall apart, and I had to come back to Australia. And it was then I met Dr. George Miller, you know, and George and I became good friends, and we started doing some writing work, and we were writing a film together when then Mad Max came up, for me it was about 1999, and so I started getting into the combat style part of Mad Max, doing the fight choreography and the weapons advising work. And, you know, it started moving forward, then it fell over because of the war. And so George asked me, I went back to writing this screenplay, and George rang me one day and he said, look, we need you. I said, what for? He said, well, do you want to direct Happy Feet with me? I said, yeah, that'd be great. You know, I said, you know, I know nothing about this. I've never made a CG movie. My computer expertise is almost zero. He goes, yeah, but you'll figure it out. You're a smart guy. And so I went in there and I wondered what I'd done. I got home that night and I said to my wife, Debbie, I said, you know, I have no idea what I've just put my name down for. You know, they met the digital directors with me and the stuff they're talking in these acronyms, you know, BMO, Bobject, VATFI, all this stuff, I had no idea. But the way I got through is I was very honest with everybody. I decided to tell the artists that I knew nothing about CG, and I said that to them. I said, but together, we will learn this process and design a film that's fantastic. And it took a lot of work, but we got there. And by the end of Happy Feet 1, I was probably one of the world leaders in running that CG stuff. And then, of course, we started prepping for Mad Max again, and then it fell over again, so we went back and made Happy Feet 2. And then finally we got the shot to make Mad Max in Africa in 2012. And so my family and I all uprooted and went across to Namibia and we shot Mad Max over there. I designed all the fight action, all the weapons action for the film, all the gunfighting, and I trained all the actors for the film, and it was a really interesting process. The film was a hard film to make. It was very desolate out there where we were. I loved working with the actors, I loved doing that stuff, but it made it a very tough process. Long days, long journeys. But at the end of it, I think I came out a stronger person, you know, and I think I needed to go through that. You know, we went through a hard time after Max, after doing that film, and I came back and I had to work in an industry I didn't want to be in anymore. I got pushed to the edge of life at one point in time where it was such a low point for me, feeling like things had gone so badly because the film had been stopped. And I thought that I'd failed everybody. And, you know, at the same time, I had to keep money coming in, so I had to work in an industry I didn't want to be in anymore. Yeah, it was a real kick on the guts to me. And so what I decided, you know, is that, you know, do I keep going or not? What do I do? You know, didn't realise if I was going to make it home or not that night. I was pretty dejected about things. And it was a suicide, and it was very interesting having had the same thought processes to a point myself. It was an awakening. You know, sometimes it takes life to push you to the edge to bring you back. So I decided to come back. They'd shuffled all the workers up into this one big area, and they all just sat around. No one knew what to say. Now, unfortunately, in my life, I've been through quite a number of suicides with friends, you know, one extended family member, and it's a rough situation. And I'd done a lot of looking into it, a lot of researching because of that, and so I got up and spoke for about 25 minutes to the guys about how it happens, why it happens, and how quickly you can descend into that point of life where there's no return. And it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling being able to change that. At the end of my speech, I said to the guys that if anybody here is thinking any of these same thoughts, please come and see me, and I will take you to help myself. At the end of that meeting, 6 guys came up to me and said, we're thinking of killing ourselves. And we did. We took them straight to help. And I think that day we lost one person, but we saved 6. And what it did to me is it gave me more purpose for life. You know, I'd always been a good sportsman, everything else, but then I thought, now there's a reason for my winning. There's a reason for why I do these things, because I can re-inject it into the community and into the world and make it a better place, you know, and it changed my level of thinking. And then to come back from that, then re-engage with my shooting partner, Craig Ginger, to go across to America in May of 2014 and win the World Championships together was a dream come true. You know, I'd wanted to be a world champion from the age of 4. And it had never happened. You know, that was my dream. I used to stand in the kitchen with my mum and say, Mum, when I grow up, I'm going to be a champion, a world champion.
All right. Yeah. 1 down. Yeah. Good. It's good. Good start.
My dad was a world record holding kayaker from New Zealand. He crossed between North and South Island of New Zealand 2 days before coming to Australia. In 1963, in a kayak he built himself. You know, and the old record was 5 hours, 14 minutes, and on that day in May, my father shattered the record. He did the crossing in 3 hours, 40 minutes. And I think the record still stands today. So it was rather astonishing that what he could do. And my father can't swim, so it made it even better. And it was a great guide to life for me because Dad was always a dreamer in that respect and just decided to go after his stuff, and that was always him. And so I guess some of that rubbed off on me to a point where I decided to do something I was always too stupid to realise I couldn't. And that's the process of living, the process of life. And I mean, the only guidance I can give to anybody is, if you've got a dream, just go for it, because the first step, everyone makes it the hardest step, and it's always the step they think about so much, and they talk themselves out of it, and they don't give themselves a true shot at it. They go, oh, well, I tried once and it didn't work. It's like, well, it's going to take you a lot more than once. But if you don't even take that first step, if you don't even give it your best shot to start with, and know the fact that you're going to be bad, know the fact that you aren't going to have the necessary skill sets because you're working on a conscious level, not subconscious. You know, a conscious level of thinking is when you start doing anything and you have to think a lot about it. But over time, as we develop a skill and get better, it becomes subconscious, more like breathing. And we don't have to think about what we're doing, it just naturally happens. And that's what it becomes. You know, you start off thinking about everything, but if you realize that stuff's going to be tough and the things are going to be hard and you're going to struggle with a skill set and you're not going to be any good at it, don't just think you're going to walk out the gate and suddenly be world champion, because it won't happen. You've got to put the time in and the effort in and realize that it's an up and down path, and you're going to have some rough times, but you're going to fight back to the good ones. And if you're willing to go through those steps and take that hardship and the ridicules, because no one understands it, I seriously tell you that now. My friends, not one person at the time when I was a kid, understood or even helped or assisted in what I wanted to do. They thought I was an idiot. They all said that. They used to call me a fantasy man, all kinds of stupid names. My nickname in high school was Flex. The teachers used to make a joke out of me because I was trying to weight train and become big. You know, and that sort of always was around me, but it gave me fuel. I turned that into a positive and thought, you know, if they're going to drill me about this stuff, I'll dish it back to them. You know why? Because if I get successful and I do this, then they're going to shut their mouth. And you know what? They did.
And I know it's a rhino skin place. You know, it's for tough blokes. We've all been through it. We all know what it's like. But when you're copying this every day, plus what might be going on at home, which I know has been alluded to already, which if you've got a broken family, huge debts, gambling issues, this compounds so fast. And you start taking yourself where I went to, which was a very dark place. So why not reach out for help? Why not put your hand up and go, you know, help me, someone help me. 2 reasons. 1, we're men. We don't speak. We shut down. And 2, when you are in that place, you're so introverted, you're trying so hard just to hang on every day, just to fight, to survive. You don't have the physical energy to reach out for help, and you don't think anyone can help you anyway, until you make that decision to end your life. But if we understand, how many people are here today? What do we got, 200? 200 people. See, the problem I have with statistics are their numbers. I'm not a great numbers person. But say we talked about 200 people losing their lives, and we put faces to those 200 people. If you look around everyone in this room and see what it would mean to you if they weren't here tomorrow, it makes it feel real different. And suddenly, things take on new meaning. Suddenly it matters. It matters that we save lives. I've lost so many. Please, I want to see all of you help save others. So everyone stand up for a second. Everyone jump up. Turn to the person next to you, shake their hand and say, be here tomorrow. All right, everybody, I'd like to thank you for your time, your patience putting up with me. I'm a chippy at heart, always will be. My family, my dad's a chippy. You know, and I'll always fight for the tradies because I know how tough they slug it out, all right? And I've been around some great tradies, and from the Steelies, even the Irish, all right? The Irish steel fixers we have in Barangaroo are a great bunch of blokes, and I was there for a year and a half, and I had a fantastic time with it. I must say, it's some top of the line fellas, I must say. So everyone I've met on the site, I still really enjoy their company. I'll catch up with them. So thank you for your time, I much appreciate it.
If you want to go for a dream, if you've got something inside you that you think you can be great at, something that you feel was put on earth just for you, then go for it and don't settle for anything less, and don't let people talk you out of it, because the human species is like crabs in a bucket. They're going to grab you, drag you down and hold you down as long as they can, because it makes them feel better about their lives and what they're not doing. To have the tenacity to step up, have the tenacity to go through those hard times and fight your way through to the front. Because if you do that, I promise you, your life will be worthwhile. And that's all I've got to say on that.
He said, son, life is simple. It's either cherry red